Hi, class. First, I want to thank you for doing a really good job on the contemporary problems in society essay. The ones I received up until yesterday, I graded, and they were really all really pretty good, especially using sources to support your ideas and very clear writing. So I'm really happy with that. Your last assignment that I posted is going to be a short essay, what's called a rhetorical analysis. What that is basically is analyzing not a speech, not the content, that's not what you're doing, but how does the author of the speech, the speaker, use persuasiveness basically and their character to get their point across to their audience. Long time ago, 2,600 years ago, Aristotle, when the Greeks were inventing this stuff, democracy, wanted to think, well, what does a speaker need running for office to be persuasive? And he thought about it and came up with the concept of rhetoric. I have here, and this is also in your PowerPoint, a copy of Aristotle's Rhetoric. I'm going to read to you his very short definition of what the rhetorical appeals are. Of the modes of persuasion furnished by the spoken word, there are three kinds. The first depends on the personal character of the speaker. The second, on putting the audience into a certain frame of mind. The third, on the proof or apparent proof provided by the words of the speech itself. So the first depends on the personal character of the speaker. That's ethos. That answers the question, why should I believe you? No matter how good your speech is, if people don't trust you or believe that you know what you're talking about, they're not going to believe you. So ethos is, what is it about the person that I should believe what they say? Okay, I can make a speech about cheerleading, and people are going to know, what does he know about cheerleading? He's not credible. But if I start speaking about the fact that I spent time with the Phoenix Suns dance team, went and interviewed people at dance competitions, talked to head cheerleaders and cheer managers, they would begin to think, well, he learned something about dance, about cheer, and so maybe he knows what he's talking about. Okay. The second, putting the audience into a certain frame of mind, that's pathos. Pathos is the main part of a speech. It's persuasiveness. The words that you use to persuade your audience why they should listen to you. Imagine being someone who does not believe in guns, like myself, speaking to the NRA or a Second Amendment rights group. You would have to be very persuasive to get that audience to even listen to you. So what is it about the words that gives a persuasiveness for the audience to believe what the person is saying? The third, proof or apparent proof provided by the words of the speech itself. That's what we call logos. Now, logos does not mean logic. That's a different word in Greek. Logos refers to, usually for us, data, statistics, facts, but speeches often don't have those. It's what about the content of the speech appears to be rational, appears to make sense. In other words, you're telling me this, you know what you're talking about, you seem pretty persuasive, but can we really do this? That's what logos really is. You don't need sources for your paper. It's a short paper. You don't have a lot of time. You don't need to do research. However, let me go over the content for you. These are in the PowerPoints. Your introduction should contain some background about the author. Now, I selected 4 speeches for you. One is a famous speech by President Kennedy, where he talked about putting a man on the moon by the end of the decade, which actually happened in 1969. The next speech is by a guy, Sanjay Khan, who started something called the Khan Academy, Khan, talking timely about the future of education in a online type of world. The Khan Academy is an online education platform. The next speech is by Michelle Obama, former First Lady. She talks about children and children issues, especially in education. And the last is by founder of Apple Computer, Steve Jobs, who spoke at a commencement speech at Stanford. And it's one of his most famous speeches, one of the most famous college commencement speeches. So Michelle Obama's speech is a PDF. The others are links to a URL, but you can search and find these speeches on your own. What I want you to do is listen or read the speech several times and think. Ethos. Why should I believe this person? Now, you can't simply say Michelle Obama's first lady. What is it about her background? What is it about her that gives her the authority to speak on behalf of children? John F. Kennedy had a degree in political science from Harvard. What gives him the authority to speak about space? Well, if you look at some background, you found that he did a great deal of time at NASA, learning about the space program and understanding to be able to talk to critics. So that's the kind of thing you look for ethos. For pathos, I want you to point in your paper to a quote in the speech, like a source, just from the speech, where they say something that's very powerful, sticks in your mind, and shows how they're able to connect to their audience. For logos, you're probably not going to find a lot of facts or figures. You may find some, but what is it that appeals to the audience that this person really knows the subject and what they're telling you sounds good? What is Kennedy telling people that makes them think, yeah, we really maybe can go to the moon? What is it about Steve Jobs that persuades young college graduates in the center of Silicon Valley that they should stay hungry, stay foolish, that type of thing? So you'll have 5 paragraphs, the introduction, 1 paragraph each to discuss the ethos, logos, and pathos of the speech. Remember, you don't need sources, but you should point to evidence from the speech itself. And then a short conclusion. Your conclusion should say, why was this speech important? We all know Kennedy's speech was very important, but what about the speech would make a reader want to know that it's a very important topic that they should be aware of? And that about covers it. Thank you again for your essays and your hard work. This shouldn't be a difficult one. It just really is looking at when people speak to us, how are they convincing us? What is it about their background, their ability to speak on the subject, on that subject that we find them credible? And how are they making what they say sound credible or reasonable? Remember, that's the logos part. Okay, well, thank you, and have a good week.